Overseas media have begun to tell with surprise the success of Japan's new coronavirus countermeasures. Despite the fact that there is no enforceable lockdown like in the Western countries, and the number of PCR tests is very small compared to other countries desperately trying to find the cause for suppressing the infection, it is, until very recently, I couldn't deny the feeling of a strong change of opinion because of the critical reporting of Japan's measures. On the 22nd of May, newspaper The Guardian in UK reported, "From near disaster to success story, how Japan has tackled coronavirus." In the news, experts pointed out that more than a month ago, Japan will be one of the most tragic countries in the new corona, stressing that Japan's response was seen as a failure. Reasons for this include the fact that how to deal with a cruise ship Diamond Princess was criticized by foreign countries, the initial launch was too late and the number of PCR tests was small, which was particular about holding the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics. According to the news, however, the number of infected people and deaths in Japan has remained at a very low level compared to the major countries in Europe and the United States. And the number of newly infected people in Tokyo has dropped to the single digit. I can claim that Japan is a country that has succeeded in taking measures against the new corona with solid evidence, the news said. The Guardian newspaper suggests that in Japan, it is customary to wear masks to prevent influenza and prevent hay fever, and to bow instead of shaking hands and hugs when meeting people. Personal hygiene awareness. He said that he was already prepared for the virus infection, such as the high cost and the culture of taking off shoes in the house. In addition, as an expert's opinion, he pointed out the existence of a universal health insurance system that allows anyone to take out medical insurance, a low obesity rate, and knowledge on the treatment of pneumonia. Bloomberg, an economic media outlet, also said in the news from Tokyo, saying, "People are not restricted from moving, restaurants and barbers are still open. There are no state-of-the-art apps to track people's movements, and the country is infected without a corresponding specialized central organization. The inspection rate is only 0.2% of the population, which is the lowest level in developed countries. But the spread of infection is suppressed and the death toll is within G7, 7 major advanced countries. And the number of people is low, which is less than 1,000 people. Despite some false positives, Japan reportedly successful in containing the new corona." As a reason for success, Bloomberg introduced the opinion of the existence of public health centers all over the country and the fact that due to this, the tracking of infected persons was thoroughly carried out and the occurrence of clusters was prevented as much as possible. It also pointed out that the types of viruses may be less virulent than those that have spread in the Western countries. Australia's public broadcaster ABC said, "Japan seems to be looking at recipes for catastrophes, such as overcrowded trains, the highest aged rate in the world, outbreaks on the cruise ship, and non-penalty declarations of emergencies." There was an anxiety that Japan becomes the second Italy and New York, but that was avoided, but the reason for the successful containment is a mystery. ABC interviewed Mr. Tasuku Honjo, who won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine, to find out why Japan was successful. According to the article, Mr. Honjo said, "It's still a mystery to most medical professionals why Japan's infection and mortality rates are so low. I don't kiss or hug in public." ABC also noted that Honjo suggested the effects of the BCG vaccine to prevent tuberculosis, pointing out that BCG vaccination is not common in Australia, the US, or the UK. What's interesting is that almost no media cite the Abe administration's measures against corona. The decline in the number of infected people is not because the government's measures have been successful, said The Guardian, while touching on the unpopular episode of Abanu Mask. The expert's point of view was introduced. Bloomberg also implicitly criticized the Abe administration, saying it lacked political leadership. In countries that have successfully contained the new coronavirus, such as Germany, New Zealand, South Korea, and Taiwan, top leadership is highly evaluated. For that reason, it is a very interesting phenomenon that overseas media generally give a low rating to the Japanese top that has been successfully contained. I am not a fan of Prime Minister Abe. I'm rather standing at a position that doubts the government's measures. However, the government's measures were not the best but were not bad, I think. Especially, there are several misunderstandings between overseas media. Some articles are pointing the reason correctly, but some are sometimes quite incomplete that were written without seeing deep inside of Japan. I, as a Japanese civilian, am rather sympathetic to the Japanese government that the overseas media's criticism to the Japanese government's measures to the cruise ship Diamond Princess. Shouldn't overseas media, which now recognize the Japanese government's measures as a result, needs to write an article to remove such a criticism? Are you guys going to ignore such things that were fake news as a result? There are still criticisms for the small number of PCR tests in Japan. PCR tests are just a test, not therapeutics. Also, the accuracy of test is still said to be about 70%, not 100%. Considering Japan's medical capacity, it was more important than the inaccurate tests. Especially, it was well known that only elder people go to serious and the government targeted not to cause death. I think the government's measures were reasonable. In addition, Japanese medical doctors have found early on that by CT scanner that patients with coronavirus have remarkable characteristics. In other words, Japanese medical doctors had succeeded in identifying patients one by one extremely accurately. At this point of stage, PCR tests were done just to confirm, and accuracy went up to almost 100%. I heard the penetration rate of CT scanners in Japan is the highest in the world. It's sometimes equipped in a small hospital in a local city. Moreover, the doctors have come to be able to identify if the person is infected or not through X-ray while repeatedly seeing the patients. This is the reason why I think PCR tests are not the best solution. Anxiety of coronavirus expands in Japan while viewing the cruise ship Diamond Princess, and it was the last week of January. On TV or newspapers, some people said that the Japanese government needs to block Chinese tourists that come to Japan on Chinese holidays, but the government didn't do that. It was a really risky gamble. But the policy of the government got win as a result, as shown in this graph. Instead, as a gift for the government, economy of Japan was saved because huge number of Japanese companies had already prepared various things for huge number of the tourists from China. If all of rooms of hotels, sightseeing buses, gifts for sale, reservations of restaurants, etc. were cancelled at that time, Japanese economy might have gone much worse than now. It can be said that Japan gripped whatever they can grip before dropping to a valley from a cliff. This is the reason why I think the Japanese government's measures are not bad at the least. Okay, then, why coronavirus expanded in Japan? According to expanding of the virus in foreign countries, many Japanese people who are living out of Japan started getting back to Japan. Japan is a country that handles freedom of people the best. Even the Japanese government can restrict human rights of Japanese people easily. As a result, many infected Japanese people got back to Japan without enough measures by the government. Such people are just requested by the government to stay home without restriction by the law. In Japan, the Japanese government is highly restricted to do something to people here, but there is no law that restricts people's freedom strongly, even if it causes crisis of Japanese society. Also, there were 3 straight holidays in the end of February and the weather was very fine and people here enjoyed going out. It seems to be the cause of expanding of the virus. Many Japanese people feel it was a failure. According to overseas media, it says that Japanese people wear masks in their daily lives, bow in greeting, and do not shake hands, kiss, or hug, which is the reason for the success of the measures against coronavirus. I don't think it's wrong, but I think it's not enough. Japanese and many Asians eat rice, which is their staple food, with chopsticks. Westerners mainly eat bread by hand. It looks like as if they eat the virus directly. Of course, Japanese people also eat bread, but it's not so often. Also, for examples, whenever Japanese purchased bread or sandwiches at a convenience store, a small wet hand towel to clean up the hands comes together for free. Though Japanese people eat such foods without removing wrapping as much as possible. In addition to the Japanese people's habits and daily lives above, I think overseas media had to see there are three important factors: eating by chopsticks, the wet hand towels, and eating without removing wrapping, and it cannot be overlooked. In fact, I have never seen Japanese women who don't have Kleenex in the pocket or bags. The effect of BCG vaccination against coronavirus has not been demonstrated. However, if we look at the death toll between vaccinated and non-vaccinated countries, it is quite clear that there is something unknown kind of connection, and I think that future scientific proof is awaited. In this list, if you look at the control struggles of all other Japanese strains inoculated, you cannot help thinking that BCG Japanese strains have not only severe deteriorating effects and suppressing deaths but also infection-suppressing effects. As a mechanism, new findings such as strengthening innate immunity and training immunity are being advocated. It seems that the emergency declaration will be lifted without any coercive measures. Why Japan does not look like a miserable Western world? It seems that the overseas media should not be wondered as being called Japanese miracle. But the guardian deity BCG Japanese strains, I think the existence of is unexpectedly overlooked. The safety of BCG Japanese strains has been established before developing and trying out various new corona vaccines that I don't understand. It seems wise to mass-produce BCG Japanese strains and inoculate them all over the world. By the way, currently, BCG Japan strains are in stock only for children, planned to be used in each country. I can't agree with the words of the overseas media, which is Japan miracle. Coronavirus is ongoing better because of the Japanese government's measures, the measures of each individual Japanese, plus the most important such as lifestyle and spirits that the past Japanese left behind for the present Japanese. I think this is not a coincidence, it was fate. At the last, I'm not a medical doctor. I am just a citizen in Japan who is interested in coronavirus. I add that many Japanese people have almost the same knowledge as me. Please forgive me if there is a mistake in the article. Thank you very much for watching. Next video coming soon. See you.